Everyone leaves something unfinished. It might be a note you're writing, a book you are reading, or it might be breakfast. When you die, you're going to leave behind something that you did not complete. That doesn't mean that you cannot let go and die peacefully. In fact, it's all the more reason to let go of our attachments so that you can be ready to leave at any time. Hi, it's Margaret Maloney, and welcome to Season 3 of the Death Dhamma podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so appreciative that you are part of my community. And yet, I seek not to be attached to the idea of the podcast or even to the idea of our community. And that's our topic this season: attachment, clinging, and aversion. What happens when we really want something? What happens when we really don't want something? And what does it do to our suffering and dissatisfaction? Let's dive in and find out a little bit more with today's episode. My parents had a family friend who was terminally ill. As it got closer to his time of death, his wife suspected that he was having a hard time letting go. He had many siblings, and some of them were able to be by his side in the dying process, but some were not. And his wife came to the realization that maybe what he needed was to say goodbye. And so she called up each of the missing siblings and put the phone up to his ear. Now, miraculously, she was able to get each one of them on the phone on the very first try, and they were all able to have this final conversation. And just a few minutes after he finished the last phone call, her husband took his last breath and died peacefully. What do we worry about as we prepare for death? What do you think will be something that you'll be thinking about? I don't know what I'll be thinking about, but I hope that my mind will be as clear as possible. Right now, I'm going to share this passage with you from the Anguttara Nikaya 6.16. It's the Nakula Sutta. Nakula's mother is seeking to soothe her husband as he is ill and near death. And so I'm going to pick up at this point in the passage. At that time, Nakula's father, the householder, was diseased, in pain, severely ill. Then Nakula's mother said to him, "Don't be worried as you die, householder. Death is painful for one who is worried. The Blessed One has criticized being worried at the time of death." Now, it may be that you are thinking, Nakula's mother will not be able to support the children or maintain the household after I'm gone. But you shouldn't see things in that way. I am skilled at spinning cotton, at carding matted wool. I can support the children and maintain the household after you are gone. So don't be worried as you die. Death is painful for the one who is worried. The Blessed One has criticized being worried at the time of death. Now, it may be that you are thinking, Nakula's mother will take another husband after I'm gone. But you shouldn't see things in that way. You know as well how I am with my fidelity. I've been constant for the past 16 years. So don't be worried as you die, householder. Death is painful for one who is worried. The Blessed One has criticized death when one is worried. Now, it may be that you are thinking, Nakula's mother will have no desire to go see the Blessed One, to go see the community of monks after I'm gone. But you shouldn't see things in that way. I will have an even greater desire to go see the Blessed One, to go see the community of monks after you are gone. So don't be worried as you die, householder. Death is painful for one who is worried. The Blessed One has criticized being worried at the time of death. Now, it may be that you are thinking, Nakula's mother will not act fully in accordance with the precepts after I'm gone. But you shouldn't see things in that way. To the extent that the Blessed One has white-clad household female disciples who act fully in accordance with the precepts, I am one of them. If anyone doubts or denies this, let him go ask the Blessed One, the worthy one, the rightly self-awakened one, who is staying among the Bhagas in the deer park at Beksala Grove near Crocodile Haunt. So don't be worried as you die, householder. Death is painful for one who is worried. The Blessed One has criticized being worried at the time of death. Now, it may be that you are thinking, Nakula's mother will not attain inner tranquility of awareness after I'm gone. But you shouldn't see things in that way. To the extent that the Blessed One has white-clad householder female disciples who attain inner tranquility of awareness, I am one of them. If anyone doubts or denies this, let him go ask the Blessed One, the worthy one, the rightly self-awakened one who is staying among the Bhagas in the deer park at Bekasala Grove near Crocodile Haunt. So don't be worried as you die, householder. Death is painful for one who is worried. The Blessed One has criticized being worried at the time of death. Now, it may be that you are thinking, Nakula's mother will not reach from firm ground in this doctrine and discipline, will not attain a firm foothold, will not attain consolation, overcome her doubts, dispel her perplexity, reach fearlessness, or gain independence from others with regard to the teacher's message. But you shouldn't see things in that way. To the extent that the Blessed One has white-clad householder female disciples who reach firm ground in this doctrine and discipline, attain a firm foothold, attain consolation, overcome their doubts, dispel their perplexity, reach fearlessness, and gain independence from others with regard to the teacher's message, I'm one of them. If anyone doubts or denies this, let them go ask the Blessed One, the worthy one, the rightly self-awakened one who is staying among the Bhagas in the deer park at Bekasala Grove near Crocodile Haunt. So don't be worried as you die, householder. Death is painful for one who is worried. The Blessed One has criticized being worried at the time of death. While Nakula's father, the householder, was being exhorted by Nakula's mother with this exhortation, his disease was immediately allayed, and he recovered from his disease. That was how his disease was abandoned. Then, soon after, Nakula's father, the householder, had recovered from being sick, and not long after his recovery from illness, he went leaning on a stick to the Blessed One, and on arrival, having bowed down to the Blessed One, he sat to one side, and as he was sitting there, the Blessed One said to him, "It is your gain, your great gain, householder, that you have Nakula's mother, sympathetic and wishing for your welfare, as your counselor and your instructor." So that's the end of the passage as I'm going to read it. So a couple of key points, and you can see, because again, in the suttas, there's a lot of repetition, because remember, it started off as an orally passed down from others, and it wasn't it wasn't placed in writing until, a couple hundred years later or more. So key points. If you approach death full of worry, it's more painful, it's going to be difficult, and the Buddha consistently advised against it. And Nakula's mother, you could see that she was thinking of all the different things that her husband may have been worrying about while he was potentially in the process of dying. And she went through each of those things to help him release his fears, to help him let go of what he was afraid of, so that if he was going to die, he could do so without worry on his mind, right? I mean, she addressed the ability for her ability to, make an income and care for their children after he was dead, and whether or not she would remarry, and her ability to maintain her faith, and her ability to grow stronger in her faith, and whether or not she would continue to be a follower of the Buddha and the monks. And so she went through all the different things that she thought that he would be worried about, and helped him release those fears. Now, in this story, as you can tell, he gets well. So at the end of all of this, he doesn't die. But of course, eventually he's going to die, right? But in this sutta, he doesn't die. He becomes healthy. However, still, she walked him through releasing those fears. And, the Buddha tells him how fortunate he is to have her. And I remember as my father was dying, he was worried about my mother. And a discussion that we had always had, my mother, father, and I, was that when either of them died, the survivor would come live with me and my husband. Now, if not actually in our house with us, in the area. And the idea being that we were both still working, my husband and I, and it would be difficult for us to travel 2 states away to take care of the survivor. But when the time came, my mother was not going to do this. She did not want to come live with us or near us. She wanted to stay in the home that she and my father had lived in. And of course, she wanted to maintain her independence. And this was not anything personal towards us. It was about how she wanted to live the remainder of her days, the decision she wanted to make. But when my father told me about her decision, he was concerned. He was concerned about her well-being. He was concerned about her financial position, because their plan had been based around something, and she had decided to go another direction, and he was worried about whether or not she was going to be okay. Now, at this point, we had been making monthly trips up to their area to be with them, because Dad was dying, and so we went up and tried to spend some time with him every month as he was going through his dying process. And I assured him, that if Mom wanted to stay there, we were fully prepared to support her, which was true. We were. So whatever that meant. So if it meant that, we needed to keep coming up every month and stay with her for some time, or if she needed some kind of support, financial or otherwise, we were going to be able to do it. I meant it. And my dad was relieved. And as he moved closer to breathing his final breath, we continued to assure him that Mom would be taken care of. Now, and I know I saw how that helped him have more peace. Now, my mother did not go through a terminal illness. She died, I want to say suddenly, but when somebody's 86 and it's 2 years after their partner has died, it's not really suddenly. But at any rate, so she died suddenly, we'll say, from a heart attack. She died in a heart attack. She was sitting on the couch at the end of the day with her prayer book. So in her way, she had the death, a good death. But, about a day before she died, we were on the phone because we spoke on the phone every day. She expressed concerns about my well-being because at that point now she knew my husband was terminally ill and my mother was worried about what my future would look like. And I didn't give her false hope. Like I didn't say, oh, he's going to be fine, because no, he wasn't going to be fine. In fact, he died a few days after she did. But I did let her know that I was as well positioned as possible for his pending death. And that was true. That was true. So, when someone you love is dying, you can provide a peaceful environment by being with him or her and supporting him or her on their journey and giving them the freedom to let go and proceed with the transition, whatever that looks like. For ourselves, I like to say, travel lightly. When I travel, when I go on a trip, I like to only bring, if I'm flying, I like to only bring a carry-on. I don't like to check a bag. I don't have any of that. And so I pack as lightly as possible. And I think that, that's served me well. And so I feel like that's good advice for vacations and other adventures. And you know what? It's a great way to live. Be aware of what you're carrying around with you and your willingness to let go. Live well. And when I say live well, I mean following the Noble Eightfold path. When you don't, because we're human, I'm human, I'm an unenlightened person just talking to you and sharing with you, right? So when I don't live well, or if any of us don't live well, if we have unresolved issues, then I'd say, do what you can to find peace. And in that way, when it's your time, you'll have less clinging, less resistance, and less aversion, and you will be ready to go on that journey to whatever comes next. I would love to hear from you, your thoughts, your suggestions, your own stories about attachment. So follow this link, I'm going to read it to you in a minute here, to leave me a 90-second message with your ideas and suggestions. You can go to https:// www.speakpipe.com/death_Dhamma_podcast. I suppose you could also just use your favorite search engine to say SpeakPipe Death Dhamma Podcast. And there you can record an audio message for me. And be sure to come over to margaretmaloney.com. That's MargaretMeloni.com and join the community. You've been listening to the Death Dhamma Podcast with your host, Margaret Maloney. Thank you so much for being here. Come find me on margaretmaloney.com, MargaretMeloni.com. And until we meet again, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be at ease, and may you be free from suffering. Bye for now.